It all started with the dumbest decision of my life, letting Kyle drag us to that creepy gas station. We weren't even low on gas, but Kyle, the idiot with a weird obsession for sketchy pit stops, saw the flickering light off the highway and steered us in, saying, "Come on, man, look at it. It's perfect." Kyle had a thing for places like this, abandoned, forgotten, just on the edge of creepy. He said they had character. I said they had tetanus, but there was no arguing with him. In the dead of night, the station looked like it had been swallowed by the darkness, an island of rust and flickering lights. No cars, no signs of life. Just us and the Texas night stretching forever in both directions. I felt it as soon as we rolled up. Something was wrong. The air was heavy, pressing down on me like a weight. The wind was still, too still. Even the cicadas had gone silent. I stayed in the truck, watching Kyle hop out, grinning like an idiot, already talking about grabbing some chips and a soda. Then I saw Pump 6. It was different from the others. The light above it wasn't just flickering, it was pulsing. On, off, on, off. A steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. My stomach twisted, a gut feeling telling me not to get out of the truck. But Kyle was already inside the station, probably digging through expired snacks, completely clueless. I opened the door. The second my feet hit the cracked pavement, I heard it. Metal grinding, deep and low, like something was moving underground. The pump's screen flashed to life. 666, 666, over and over. The numbers blinking faster like they were in a race. I'm not even religious, but that kind of thing gets to you. I glanced at the reflection on the pump's screen. I wasn't ready for what I saw. It was me, but not. My face was there, but twisted, distorted, like someone had melted it and tried to mold it back into shape with their hands. My stomach churned, and I staggered back, wiping my eyes. When I looked again, the screen was blank, and my reflection was normal. I wasn't sticking around to figure it out. I burst into the gas station, finding Kyle at the counter, tearing into a bag of chips like we hadn't just rolled into the setting of every horror movie ever made. "We gotta go now," I hissed, grabbing his arm. Kyle laughed, mouth full of Doritos, totally unfazed. "Dude, chill. It's just a gas station. You've been watching too many horror flicks." "I saw something, man. Pump 6 is messed up," I insisted, but Kyle shrugged, paying for his snacks with the last few crumpled bills in his wallet. I didn't care if he believed me or not. I yanked him toward the door. He grumbled but followed. We were halfway to the truck when we heard it. The screech of metal again, but louder this time and closer. My breath caught in my throat, and I spun around. There it was. A figure standing near Pump 6, motionless. Its outline was barely human, limbs too long, too twisted. I couldn't see its face, not clearly, but I knew it was watching us. I could feel its gaze. "Kyle," I whispered. My voice barely worked. He turned, saw the thing, and the color drained from his face. The bravado was gone. He wasn't laughing anymore. "Get in the truck now," I barked, pushing him forward. My hands were shaking as I fumbled with the keys, finally jamming them into the ignition. The engine sputtered, coughed, and died. "Come on!" I hit the steering wheel. The figure was getting closer, its body contorting unnaturally with each step. Kyle was frozen, staring at it with wide eyes. I turned the key again. The engine roared to life, and I floored it. The tires screeched, kicking up dust as we tore out of the station, the figure shrinking in the rearview mirror. But something wasn't right. The truck was running rough, even though we just filled the tank. It felt like it was draining, like the gas was disappearing faster than it should. Kyle's voice was small, shaken. "What the hell was that thing?" "I don't know," I muttered, gripping the wheel, heart pounding. "But we're not going back." We drove in silence for what felt like hours, though it couldn't have been more than 30 minutes. The road was endless, stretching into the darkness like it wanted to swallow us whole. I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see that figure again, creeping up on us, but it wasn't there, yet. Just when I thought we were safe, the truck jerked. Once, twice. The headlights flickered. Kyle let out a nervous laugh. "You sure you even put gas in this thing?" I didn't answer. The gas gauge still read full, but the truck was dying. We coasted to a stop on the side of the road. No lights, no houses, just darkness in every direction. "Great," Kyle muttered. "What now?" I didn't know. The truck was dead, the engine silent. The air felt thick again, like it had at the gas station. I glanced around, my heart racing. That's when I saw it. A flickering light far down the road. Another gas station? No, it was the same station. Somehow, impossibly, we were back where we started. Kyle saw it too. "No way," he whispered. The figure was back. This time, it was standing at the edge of the road, closer than before. Its body was clearer now. Its face, it was my face. Twisted, melted, just like the reflection I'd seen on Pump 6. I couldn't breathe. Kyle lost it. "This is your fault. You're the one who freaked out back there." "My fault?" I snapped. "You're the one who dragged us to that cursey station in the first place." But our bickering stopped when we both heard it. The metal grinding again, louder, closer. It was coming from beneath the truck, rumbling through the floorboards like something was crawling its way up. The truck wasn't dead. It was alive. It was feeding. My skin crawled. "Kyle, we have to go." "Where?" he snapped, but his voice cracked. He was scared now, just like me. Before I could answer, the truck's headlights flickered back on. Not normal light, though. Dim, sickly yellow. The engine roared to life, but it didn't sound right. The whole truck vibrated, groaning like it was in pain. We both sat there, too afraid to move. The figure was gone. The truck was the monster now. We had no choice. We drove. As we sped away, the road seemed to stretch further. Every mile felt like 100. Kyle was muttering to himself now, something about never stopping again. But I wasn't listening. The gas gauge was dropping fast. Too fast. We should have had a full tank, but it was almost empty now. "We're never getting out," Kyle whispered. "We're stuck." I didn't want to believe him. I kept driving, hoping for a sign, something that would tell us we were going the right way. But there was nothing, just more road, more darkness, the same flickering light in the distance. And then, the truck died again. This time, we didn't even try to restart it. We just sat there, staring at the empty road ahead. The flickering light was getting closer again. No, we were getting closer to it. We'd been driving in circles, trapped in some kind of endless loop. My heart sank. There was no escaping Pump 6, no escaping whatever was playing with us. We were never meant to leave. As the light got closer, I saw the figure again, standing by the side of the road, watching us with that twisted, melted face. My face. The gas station was waiting for us. Forever. Story 2. The truck sputtered as I pulled into the gas station, kicking up clouds of dust that seemed to hang in the air, unmoving. New Mexico heat baked the asphalt beneath my tires, but the whole place felt frozen, stuck in time, like it hadn't seen a soul in years. Not even the wind stirred, just this eerie, thick stillness that pressed down on me. Every instinct told me to keep driving, but I was running on fumes. No choice but to stop. I stepped out, the air dry and dead around me. The old pumps looked like they hadn't worked in decades, rusted, worn, beaten by time. I hesitated, scanning the station. Then I saw him, the man in the green jacket. He was sitting near the station's entrance, half shrouded in shadow. His posture was all wrong, slumped over like gravity was too much for him, his head hanging low. My breath hitched, and that familiar anxiety started bubbling in my chest, coiling tight. I knew better than to trust anyone in a place like this, especially not someone who looked like they'd been sitting there for too long. I tried to ignore him, heading straight for the pump. Of course, the damn thing wouldn't read my card. Figures. Now I had to go inside. Past him. My feet felt heavier with every step, like the air was getting thicker, holding me back. As I approached, I could hear him muttering under his breath. The sound was garbled, low, and wet. I strained to make out the words, but it was just noise. Something about it chilled me to the bone. I made it inside, but the store wasn't much better. The lights flickered weakly, and the stench hit me like a wall, like something had died in the back, and no one cared enough to clean it up. Dust caked the shelves, and the floor was sticky with God knows what. The guy behind the counter looked like he'd been there for decades. His skin was papery, eyes sunken and dull, like he'd seen too much and stopped caring a long time ago. I cleared my throat and asked him to activate the pump. He didn't answer right away, just stared at me, his dead eyes unblinking. When he finally spoke, his voice was gravelly, like sand scraping through dry leaves. "The pump ain't the issue," he rasped, his gaze sliding to the window, where the man in the green jacket was still sitting. My stomach twisted. The way he said it, like the problem wasn't the equipment, but something much worse. I turned to look back outside. The man hadn't moved, still sitting there, still muttering, but now I was sure it wasn't gibberish. It was deliberate. He was talking, no chanting. Before I could say anything, the old man behind the counter grabbed my wrist. His grip was surprisingly strong for someone who looked so frail. His breath was hot and sour like tobacco and rot. "Don't talk to him," he whispered, his voice suddenly urgent. "Whatever you do, don't talk to him." I yanked my hand back, a jolt of fear shooting through me. I didn't say a word, just turned and rushed out, heart pounding in my chest. The gas was the only thing on my mind. Get the gas, get the hell out of here. But when I stepped back outside, the man in the green jacket was gone. My pulse quickened, eyes scanning the empty lot. Nothing. The shadows were longer now, the sun sinking behind the horizon, casting everything in an orange glow that somehow made the silence even worse. My hand shook as I filled up the tank, every nerve on edge, waiting for something, anything, to jump out at me. I got back in the truck, slammed the door, and peeled out of there, tires screeching. But the second I hit the highway, the feeling hit me, like a weight on my chest. Something wasn't right. The air inside the truck felt colder and my skin prickled with unease. I glanced at the passenger seat. He was there. The man in the green jacket sat silently beside me, his face still hidden, staring straight ahead. My breath caught in my throat and I almost lost control of the truck, the wheel jerking under my hands. I swerved onto the shoulder, heart hammering in my ears. "Get out," I croaked, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Get the hell out." He didn't move, didn't acknowledge me, just sat there, still as stone, like he was waiting for something. Panic shot through me and I scrambled out of the truck, stumbling onto the dirt. I leaned against the side, gasping for air, forcing myself to turn and look through the window. The seat was empty. I stood there, hands shaking, staring at the place where he'd been. It had to be the stress, right? The paranoia, all the crap weighing down on me. I climbed back into the truck, trying to calm myself down, but the feeling, the cold, the dread, clung to me like the dust on the windshield. I kept driving, but no matter how far I went, the air never warmed. My hands were numb from gripping the wheel so tight, and my eyes kept darting to the passenger seat, expecting him to appear again. But it stayed empty. By the time I reached the next town, the sky was starting to lighten, and I was running on fumes, physically and mentally. I pulled into a diner, hoping some food and coffee would snap me out of this nightmare. The place was quiet, just a few locals sipping on their coffee, not a care in the world. I ordered breakfast and tried to shake the feeling, but as soon as I sat down, the radio crackled to life. Authorities found his body 3 days ago, last seen wearing a green jacket. My blood ran cold. I gripped the edge of the table, staring at the radio, my mind racing. The man in the green jacket, dead? No, it couldn't be. I'd seen him. He was in my truck. He was sitting right there. But the news kept going, each word twisting the knife deeper. He'd been dead for days. The muttering, that low guttural sound he was making. It wasn't random, it was a chant. something I hadn't understood at the time, but now it was all coming together. He wasn't haunting me, he was marking me. Suddenly it all clicked. The old man's warning, "Don't talk to him." I hadn't, but maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe the moment I'd seen him it was already too late. I paid for my food and bolted, the walls of the diner closing in on me. My heart pounded in my ears as I jumped into the truck and sped off, my mind reeling. I thought I could outrun it. I thought maybe I could just leave it behind. But the world wasn't done playing with me yet. A few miles down the road, the truck sputtered. The engine coughed, lights flickered, and before I knew it, I was rolling to a stop at a rundown truck stop. Perfect. Just what I needed. A group of jocks were hanging out by an old van, laughing, shoving each other around like idiots. For a split second, I envied them. They didn't have this weight on their shoulders. No ghosts, no green jackets. Just dumb kids with nothing to worry about. And I asked if they had jumper cables, trying to hide the panic in my voice. They joked, teased me about looking pale, but they didn't know. They didn't feel the pressure building in the air, the way the night was closing in on me. They didn't see what was coming. Inside the diner, one of them started telling a ghost story. A man in a green jacket, a hitchhiker who never leaves once you pick him up. They laughed, and I tried to laugh with them, but the room was spinning. I excused myself and rushed outside. When I got back to my truck, it was dead. The jocks were gone, the truck stop was empty, and I felt like I was being watched. My breath caught in my throat as I turned around. He was standing there, the old man from the gas station, staring at me from behind the counter, his dead eyes locking onto mine. "You didn't listen," he rasped, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "It's too late." I ran. My feet hit the pavement hard as I sprinted back to the truck, my heart thudding in my chest. I slammed the door, turned the key, and nothing. The truck wouldn't start. I was trapped. He was coming for me. Then in the rearview mirror, I saw him again. The man in the green jacket, sitting in the back seat, staring straight ahead. He never planned on leaving.